is Wrestling Reverb. And now your host, Josh Robinson.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Wrestling Reverb. I'm your host, Josh Robinson. I'm finally back at home after a wild week away in Melbourne, and finally back to my setup, and everything's back to normal, so I can actually sit down and actually record a podcast now. So that's kind of nice. As everyone knows, I talked about it briefly on a little short episode of Wrestling Reverb this past week. I went to WWE Super Showdown. If you want to know my thoughts and feelings about that, check out the last episode of the podcast. But it was a very magical experience for me. It was just something I'll never ever forget. Even a week removed from it, I still have the same feeling as I did the moment I left. So yeah, that was just a magical night. I've actually rewatched the Super Showdown completely in full now. I did it in the last 3 or 4 days. I've watched it, and it generated so well on television. I can't see why WWE wouldn't come back to Australia. It's just it'd be a past opportunity not to. We sold out the stadium. We come across great on television. It makes WWE look like a global company, which it is, but I mean, it makes them look bigger than they, maybe portray themselves and stuff like that. So, that's fun. But yeah, I'm not going to harp on about Super Showdown too much because everyone's probably sick of me talking about it. I wasn't even going to, I didn't plan to record a podcast today, but there's been a few things in the last week in the world of wrestling, WWE, that I don't know. I'm kind of in a weird limbo at the moment where I don't know if I'm generally feeling happy about wrestling. I'm coming off of the Super Showdown and that, and being on just a high and realizing how much wrestling I knew how much wrestling meant to me, but it is, my number one passion and it's my number one love, and there's nothing that really, tops wrestling for me. But the things you love the most, you can also hate the most. And in some ways, I really don't want to be angry at wrestling because I love it so much, but I'm mad. I have this feeling towards a few things, and the first thing I want to talk about is WWE Crown Jewel. Now, obviously, WWE went to Saudi Arabia for the Greatest Royal Rumble, and, it was a sellout, whatever. The show was what it was, and now they're going back on November 2nd, to Saudi and gonna have WWE Crown Jewel. It's a big show. It's got a lot of matches. I'll talk about some of them in a minute because I have my own opinions on them too. But now a lot of people are upset over WWE going to Saudi Arabia. Now it's a very culturally different country to the the Americas and Canadas and England and Australia's and, various other countries, but just like the Western, society, it's very different. Here's my take on it, because I personally don't think they should be going to a place like Saudi Arabia, and all of this stuff that I'm not going to get into too much because it's not the right time and place to talk about that kind of stuff, but just the stuff that's going on, and they're getting a lot of bad press from it now, and I think WWE needs to distance themselves from going to Saudi Arabia, and because, I know this for a fact, like WWE might not obviously doesn't agree with the Saudi Arabia's cultural views and stuff like that, but associating yourself as a publicly traded company with a place like that can be a little misleading, can be a little... it might seem on the outside that people that don't know what WWE is or don't know, the in-betweens of everything, it might associate themselves with something like that, especially when, all we know about WWE and Saudi Arabia's relationship is that WWE are getting paid a shit ton of money. And that's what it's all boiling down to, which is, unfortunate, but that's what it is. It's big money. They're loading up Crown Jewel. I'm not saying Crown Jewel won't be a great event because to be honest, the matches on it are, top level. You've got AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship, which will be just incredible. You've got Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, triple threat match for the Universal Championship. And then you've got, the Brothers of Destruction versus DX. I'll talk about that a little bit after, but I just don't feel like Crown Jewel, Saudi Arabia is the place to have this kind of stuff. I understand where WWE's view is. They want to try and, change views and try to bring a little bit more of this world into Saudi, but WWE are not going to change a culture. WWE are not going to change the fact that, they're just a different, cultural country than America or, the Western societies and stuff like that. So my take on it is that it shouldn't be happening. They should be having this event somewhere else, have it in a stadium for all I care, have it in another country. But it's just, my personal view is just, I don't think it should be going on. It's kind of sickening to me that they're, it's just how it is. And I'm not disrespecting, the country. They have their cultural ways, but obviously we don't agree with some of those, their ways. And they do them, but I don't really want my entertainment, purposes represented that way, and my entertainment to be, associated with that. But that's all I'm going to say on it and stuff like that, because, it's a very touchy subject, and I don't want to offend anyone. I'm not trying to offend anyone, but that is my take on it. Now, speaking of Crown Jewel, so as I said, Brothers of Destruction, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, DX, they're going at it in a tag match. Obviously, Shawn Michaels coming out of retirement. Now, it seems to be very split down the middle on Shawn Michaels coming out of retirement. I'm on the right side of the view, and I'm not for Shawn Michaels coming out of retirement. He, if anybody, is the only retirement that felt just like that storybook perfect ending. Back at WrestleMania 26, obviously lost to The Undertaker in a classic match. Those two WrestleMania matches they had were outstanding. And it was just the perfect, this is it, stamp it, it's done, put it away. It's just that ending. And for 8.5 years, he stuck to that word. And he was, he's one of the only ones that have really stuck to their word about retiring and what it be. Now he's coming out of retirement for this tag match, and I just, as much as I say, I don't want this, it's still going to be cool to see Shawn Michaels wrestle again. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit there a sad sack and be like, I'm not watching this because he's coming out of retirement. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it'll still be cool to see Shawn Michaels. It's just, I don't think Shawn should be coming out of retirement because it's just that ending, and now he's going to be, reforming DX and with Triple H and Brothers of Destruction. It's just, I'm not expecting a 5-star classic out of this at all. The only one that can really perform at the same level they were 10 years ago is Triple H. That being said, we haven't seen Shawn wrestle. We don't know if he can still do this, but, not doing it at a constant pace and a constant, routine is going to be different. It's going to be not the same Shawn Michaels that we seen 8.5 years ago in Phoenix. So that's my bit on Shawn, but I'm still, still enjoying it. I'm still enjoying this story. It's a fun story. Their match at Super Showdown was a little overbooked, but it was still fun. It was still cool to see. So we go to Crown Jewel, and this is going to be a tag match. It'll probably be, a lot less of, quote unquote technical wrestling, more of the storytelling stuff, but Shawn Michaels has always had that. He can still cut a promo. He can still, I think for us, he might be able to keep up, not to the same degree as he was 8.5 years ago, but he certainly might. You can't lose something someone who's that good can't just lose it, I don't think. I think Shawn Michaels is the greatest of all time. In my opinion, the greatest performer of all time. That's just my view, but that's another reason why I'm so strongly, against Shawn wrestling again, because I just don't want to see a shell of Shawn Michaels. I want to see Shawn Michaels. I want to see the showstopper, Mr. WrestleMania. But of course, I've seen other little things about him, maybe working several matches in talks for a WrestleMania 35 match. So maybe he knows in his heart that he can still go at the same level he could. Who knows? But it'll still be a fun match, and nostalgia is there. But WWE are relying a lot on nostalgia at the moment. They're relying a lot on their old stars. With your Shawn Michaels, the Undertakers, your Kanes, your Triple H, your Lita, your Trish Stratus, they're all hanging around. Ray coming back, like Ray's a little different because he hasn't been around and stuff like that, and he's going to be a little bit more of the quote-unquote full-time, part-time kind of deal, I think, working in between schedule. It's just, they're relying on a lot of old stars for their main event matches, and I don't know, maybe they could be on the card. I'm not saying they can't, but sometimes maybe they should be floated into the middle and letting these other guys, headline the shows. I think Crown Jewel is going to be headlined by the Triple Threat, so I don't think that tag match will go on last, but you never know because Shawn Michaels is coming out of retirement for it, so it could definitely be an opportunity for them to have them on last again. They weren't last at the Super Showdown, but it is what it is. I can't change WWE's booking policy, and I'm still going to watch it. So it's not like I'm, not going to watch something just because, old guys are main eventing. It's still cool. It's still going to be probably my favorite thing of the show. Crown Jewel's a little bit different to me because, as everyone knows, my number one love in wrestling is women's wrestling, and obviously for cultural reasons they can't perform there. So, it's on November 2nd, which is 4 days removed from WWE's first ever all-women's pay-per-view, WWE Evolution. Now, Evolution has its own problems at the moment, and, besides Super Showdown, taking away Super Showdown, that was the biggest moment in my wrestling fandom. It was the greatest night of my life. I'm not even kidding when I say that. But Evolution is the behind Super Showdown, the biggest moment in my wrestling fandom. It really is. I've waited for something like this. This is the pinnacle for me. Main eventing WrestleMania and stuff like that, that will be huge, but this is the pinnacle for me. This is an all-women's pay-per-view, and WWE have done very little to promote it. It's just kind of, we had Trish and Alexa, and Mickey and Lita. Now that's a tag match, which I think is a better fit anyway, because I think if you combine those two matches together, you're going to get a better match out of it. You've got to remember, Trish and Lita have not worked singles matches in a long time. And Bliss, has her... She is good in the ring. I don't think she can carry someone in the ring. Not that Lita and Trish need to be carried. They've just got a load of ring rust. Obviously, they've been training. We've known about the Evolution pay-per-view for a long time. I'm sure they were the first two people contacted for this thing. Mickie James can still go. So I think combining these two matches not only makes the match better, it makes the match bigger, and it also allows more, other matches to get time and spotlight. Cutting down a match and combining it with another, you get more women. I think all of the women are going to be involved in this pay-per-view in some way, shape, or form. All of the current main roster women are going to be on this show. But WWE have done a very little job to promote it. We've got this tag match, Charlotte and Becky, which is going to be a last woman standing match. They have been knocking out of the park. They've really kept their feud hot, which is something that's very hard to do since it's coming out of, before SummerSlam. This is my main event, personally. But saying that, I'll talk about Ronda and Nikki in a minute, but Charlotte and Becky have done such a great job, and their match at Super Showdown was really good. Their match at Hell in a Cell was a little, what's the word? It wasn't bad. It was awkward. I think they've been holding back for Evolution, which is fine. Save throw all your eggs in one basket for this show, because who knows when this is ever going to happen again, if it ever does. Charlotte and Becky will be last woman standing. I think that match will be incredible. I'm hoping for a Becky Lynch win, but I'm honestly feeling like Charlotte's going to win the title back at Evolution. I don't think she should, but it is what it is. They've done an incredible job. This story has been really fun to me. They've had lots of twists and turns. It's fun to hear the crowd reaction. Super Showdown, Becky was... it was so night and day difference between Becky's overness and Charlotte's heat. And, obviously, we're in a grey area at the moment with these two anyway. There's no defined face and heel. Sure, Becky's been doing a little more, heel tactics, but she's cool. She's anti-hero. It's fun. But yeah, they will knock it out of the park. And then you've got Ronda Rousey and Nikki Bella. Now, a lot of people are iffy on this match. I'm not one of those people. If you look at this week, the Bellas turned this week on Ronda, which we all, kind of expected was coming. It was a great turn. The Bellas are better heels than they are baby faces, so we love to hate the Bellas because people generally don't like them. I'm not one of those people, but people generally don't like the Bellas. Now we go into this week, and I have seen Ronda Rousey and Nikki Bella's, stuff on US Weekly, TMZ, I've seen it everywhere. ESPN are covering it. This is why I stated 2 months ago when this report came out that Ronda Rousey and Nikki Bella is the perfect main event for Evolution. Look at all the attention that this is getting from outside press. WWE love to get outside press on their product. They love outside eyes. People obviously know who Ronda Rousey is. She, at one point, not anymore, but she was one point the biggest sports star in the whole world. They know who this woman is. A lot of people know who Nikki Bella is from her relationship with John Cena, her spot on Total Divas and Total Bellas, her spot on Dancing with the Stars. Nikki Bella has mainstream eyes on her. People know who Ronda Rousey is. People know who Nikki Bella is. You put them two together, and you've got a lot of outside eyes on the main event for the first ever all-women's pay-per-view, and it makes it bigger than it, maybe is. For a casual fan or an outside fan or someone who isn't maybe a fan of women's wrestling. For me, anything could go on in the main event, and I personally think that Charlotte and Becky would be a better match than Nikki and Ronda. I think Ronda and Nikki are going to, really surprise a few people, because I think this match will be better than people are giving it credit for. But this is the headlining match. I don't, I don't mind people trying to prove me wrong, but this is the headline match. You got to understand this from being a stubborn internet wrestling fan. You've got to understand it from a business point of view and what is going to get more eyes and more ticket sales and make it as big as possible so everybody is talking about, even if they're only talking about this match, by association, they're talking about Evolution. Maybe people are only going to watch it for this match, but they're going to have to watch the whole pay-per-view to get to Ronda and Nikki. It's the oldest trick in the book, and it's just the perfect way to promote this pay-per-view. I think Nikki Bella holds her own. I've never said, and I'll hold a gun to my head saying this. I've never said that the Bellas are the greatest women's wrestlers in the world. They're not. Brie's been having her own moments in the ring. I defended Brie a little while ago in a couple podcast episodes ago, and I still stand by that. But Brie has, she has a lot of ring rust. There's no question about that. If you watch the match from Raw this week with the Riots and the Bellas and Rousey, Brie has really, the little in between things. It's like she's almost forgot. She's still doing all her big spots well. She still, works the concept of a match well. It's just a little in between. It's like taking a snap mirror wrong and taking a hip toss wrong. It's going to come back to bite her. However, her being in Nikki's corner allows Nikki to shine a little more. Nikki hasn't been, a lot of the people saying the Bellas, but a lot of the heat has been on Brie. Nikki has not really, done anything wrong. Like I said, they're better heels. It makes for a great match at Evolution. It is the main event. It gets a lot of outside eyes. That is the main event for Evolution. Now, however, there hasn't really been too much more promoted for Evolution, which we should be really gearing up for since it's 2 weeks from tomorrow, the next day. So it's just over 2 weeks away from Evolution. Regardless, I am going to enjoy it whether they put whatever they put on in that show. It is going to be one of the biggest wrestling days of my life. I'm going to be very emotional that day. I don't care. That's how much it means to me. But yeah, putting Evolution on 5 days before Crown Jewel, it contradicts itself. WWE say they're all about promoting women in the main events and the main stories and as equals, and then they go to a place like Saudi, and it kind of just washes away everything they did 5 days prior. So I don't know. That's just my take on that. There's not really too much more. I just wanted to get on here. I've now had the opportunity to play WWE 2K19. It's a fantastic game. There's a few little issues, like there always is with WWE games, but I think this plays a lot better. I think it is a lot better. The My Player mode is wacky, and I love it. I played some of the showcase. That's fun. Just the general playing a match is so much better. Once I sit down and play it with some friends, it'll be different again, but I think the game is fun. But yeah, anyway, that's all I'm going to really talk about too much today, because they're just some of my gripes at the moment. And it's just, it just is what it is. But yeah, we'll see how this Evolution build happens. They've said Crown Jewel a lot more than they said Evolution in the last couple of weeks, so, take that for what it is too, but that Saudi money talks, I think. But yeah, anyway, that'll do me for this episode of Wrestling Reverb. I'll catch you guys next week. Bye.